Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Necro Thursday. It's another episode of the Necromaniacs Horror Podcast. How's it going, Jeff?
Going good, man. How you doing?
I'm well. Everything is going great. Very, very busy with my job the last couple of weeks. As you know, I missed an episode of Everything Went Black last week because of some scheduling and late last minute cancellations, like things like that. So
right.
I had to scramble a bit. But we're back on track, and luckily we did not miss any Necromaniacs episodes, so that's good.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, yeah, it's good to be busy.
Yeah, definitely, man. And but other than that, everything's cool. I had a very mild skin rash, which I had to deal with, which I picked up at the gym. And
that's not your first. That's not your first one. I remember you told. I think you've told me that a few times.
Yeah, it's kind of a thing, you know what I mean. But this time around, it wasn't like a fungal infection. Those are the bad ones. This one was just like some sort of weird rash. I went to the dermatologist, and they gave me. It's called dermatitis, which is not a fungal infection, and it's something reacted with my skin. They put me on these oral steroids, so now I'm all jacked. No, it's like a 6-day cycle of like these weird steroids and like a steroidal cream and that kind of shit, and pretty much all cleared up right now.
That's good. Gyms are kind of gross when you think about it. Like you're sharing stuff, you're sweating. It's just a breeding ground for something like that to happen.
Yeah. I mean, most of these places are very, very diligent about sanitary stuff, like like sponging the mats down and that kind of thing. And it just happens sometimes. You know what I mean? Someone shows up with dirty equipment, or maybe your gear is not as clean as it should be, and that's how you get these issues.
You know who's not a stickler for cleanliness is AMC theaters.
Oh, dude, totally, man. Do tell.
Well, okay. Well, things I checked out this week. We my girlfriend and I went and saw Oppenheimer in IMAX at an AMC because it wasn't playing in IMAX near us. So we're like, all right, we're not going to go to a regular theater to see this, I guess. So we had to go to an AMC, and what a fucking dump, man. What's your regular theater? I know there's one you were going to when you lived in the suburbs. Was that an AMC?
Yeah, the Menlo Park Theater I used to go to is not that far away. And it's from here, and it's also not that far away from where my girlfriend lives. So if we go out to the movies, we do the suburban experience of hitting the AMC at the Menlo Park Mall, and it's fucking filthy, dude. It's like straight up, you got children running the place, right? Everyone is like 17 years old, and
totally.
They have a full menu of food that they sell there.
Oh, see, ours just had the typical, or the one we went to was like, hot dog, popcorn, soda. It just had the candy, usual suspects.
Now, the one in Menlo Park is like one of these, like, you can order online a full meal. You know what I mean? It's like
I can't imagine the food being any good at an AMC theater.
I can't even tell. The only thing I've gotten there is coffee. That's it. And I never got like any kind of like meal. Like my girlfriend likes to get popcorn, so we get that when we go sometimes. But like I never ordered any of the fucking chicken fingers or Big ZD or whatever the hell they sell there. It's like, but they actually have like a full menu, so you can imagine if some 17-year-old kid, it's his job to clean up. He's not going to do a very good job. You know what I mean? Yeah,
totally. And the Draft House is our theater that we go to. They have a full menu and everything, and never had a bad experience at the Draft House so far. I think I love that place. This was completely different. It was absolutely filthy. We went to the 2:30 showing, so I think there was one at like 10:30. The theater was filthy. Also, I maybe one of our listeners will know, is fake IMAX a thing? Have you ever heard of that?
No, never heard of that.
Well, I used to go to an IMAX theater in Burbank at the City Walk. Amazing experience. Here, when I went, I just felt like I saw it on a bigger than usual screen. It didn't really feel like true IMAX. Huh. And what I'm asking is, am I crazy? I mean, like, because I've heard this term Limax before.
Limax, wow.
And I'm wondering if that's what I saw. I don't know. Maybe some people out there had the similar experience. Didn't take away from the movie though. We saw Oppenheimer. It was incredible. A 3 hour movie. I actually had no interest in seeing that when I first started hearing about Oppenheimer, like Christopher Nolan doing a 3 hour biopic about the guy who built the atomic bomb. Like, I don't know. Uh, Glad I went. It's an incredible film. The crowd was awful, as you tend to get in these fucking theaters. Like someone we I usually like to sit in an aisle seat, but we got the last two seats and they were more towards the middle. And there was a girl sitting next to my girlfriend playing cards
Oh my god!
during the movie.
Why even go? You know what I'm trying to say?
That's what we were trying to figure out. Like, and I was like, I bet her, boyfriend dragged her to this and didn't want to go. Or maybe my girlfriend had a different theory. She's one of those people who needs like a fidgety thing. Like she probably has a condition, like, and she needs to fidget while she does something. I was like, yeah, maybe. Either way, I found it really rude. I found the entire audience just to be a bunch of fucking chuckleheads. You know what I mean?
Oh,
They're
yeah.
like,
Yeah, totally.
like I think they were expecting like a war movie or something with action, and because I like to listen to comments people make when the movie ends, and people come out pouring into the lobby, and it's just a bunch of like guys looking at their phones, like, oh, I googled when the best time to go to the bathroom was.
Oh man, Jesus.
Yeah, it's like what the best time to do that is before the movie starts.
Yeah, fucking jerk off.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you had people pouring in during the beginning of the movie, coming in like loudly during the previews, people who can't find their seats and they got their phone out. Fuck AMC, they suck.
Yeah, the last couple of experiences we had were really bad. Like we went to go see the new Insidious movie, and
Right.
I'm not, like I said, I'm not a big food orderer. Like I don't, I usually show up, I get coffee and that's it, and water. You know what I mean? But Tina's
Yeah.
like, she wanted to get like, popcorn and stuff like that. So now it's not even like a human being does your order. You just type everything into like this iPad, basically, like a tablet.
Really?
Yeah, and then maybe your food comes out, and it's like fuck, because still you're eliminating like some kid, from fucking up your order, right? But you
Right.
still have to rely on this like 16-year-old to make your food the right way and bring it to the right location.
Yeah. No.
So she ordered some popcorn and I think like M&Ms or something like that. And because that's actually, she introduced me to this thing you put M&Ms in the popcorn. I don't know if you ever fucked with that before.
I can tell you what, I'm going to now. That sounds great.
It sounds good, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Must be, it's like a Jersey thing, I guess. I don't know. But anyway,
Yeah, maybe.
It's good. So the movie is like 20 minutes and we still no popcorn.
Oh God.
And I'm like, how fucking easy is it to get this right? You know what I mean? So, and I just imagine some like kid on his phone or her phone, whatever, TikToking, and like, this order, oh shit, and then taking care of it. You know what I mean? So that the experience is like pretty bad. I might have to revise my my expectations of going there, and like I used to go there. That's where I've seen like all those 10 o'clock Friday night showings of like the last show of films that no one wants to go see, like Skinamarink and stuff like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's always great because I just roll up by myself. There's like two people there. I got my bottle of water, maybe some coffee, and that's it. And then that's the night. But I'm not used to having people around me, I guess.
Yeah. This showing of Oppenheimer was completely sold out.
Wow.
However many people that is in an fake IMAX theater. So yeah, and you have people talking, a lot of people getting up. Like I said, good girl playing cards. You just, I'm spoiled. I lived in LA. I lived right next to the ArcLight in Hollywood, where the Cinemarama, the Cinema Dome is. One of the best theaters I've ever been to, and of course, also in Austin, we got the Draft House. It caters to fans of film culture, things like that. And AMC just caters to fucking mouth breathing knuckleheads,
Yeah, basically, man. And one of the cool things now that I actually live back in an urban area, in like the metropolitan area, is the access to places like the IFC and the Angelica and stuff like that. And
Oh yeah, great theaters.
and we've gone in the last couple of months. We've gone to a bunch of films at the Angelica. Like we saw the documentary on Kim's Video. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Oh, I'm very familiar with Kim's Video, but not the documentary about it.
Yeah, man. There's a documentary. They showed it as part of the New York Film Festival, so we checked it out at the Angelica in Manhattan, and it was it's pretty awesome actually, and
And
yeah. So you got to keep your eyes out for it. It's like I don't think it's out like officially out yet. It was part of the film festival, so yeah, it was pretty sick.
oh, awesome.
Yeah.
A couple other things. Because we went to see Oppenheimer, I watched Tenet the night before, and you haven't seen that yet. I'm really looking forward to you seeing that so we can talk about it someday. Because I mean, that movie just flew right over my head.
Yeah, that's definitely something that's been on my list, which I wanted to see, and I have not checked it out yet. And that's it slipped under the radar for some reason.
And the last thing I finished season 6 of Black Mirror, and I was curious if you finished it.
I put it, I watched the first 2 or I think 3 episodes and I fell off, and I got to finish it. I'm going to try to watch the rest of it this weekend, I think.
I'll try not to spoil it for you, but there's a supernatural bend to some of the episodes. And while I enjoyed them, I thought, what the fuck does that have to do with Black Mirror? You know what I mean? It felt a little out of place.
Yeah, Black Mirror primarily is about dystopian near future things. So the supernatural is kind of outside of their scope. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was an improvement over the last season, but I missed the glory of the first 2 seasons of that show. Like, it was some of the best stuff I've ever seen. It just does not reach those heights again for me.
The first episode particularly was very anxiety inducing for me because, like, as you know, like there was a period in my life where a great deal of anxiety resulted from mobile communication. So, thankfully those days are over, but that was like I was like watching that and I was like, I felt like a little white knuckling at some points,
Yeah, there were some episodes that were really disturbing and unsettling. And yeah, it just, because it all felt so possible. And now when you do supernatural stuff, you lose. I lost that connection. Like, this isn't real. Yeah. There's no demons out there.
I do like that kind of stuff, but it's out of place with Black Mirror, though.
Yeah, it feels exactly. And last thing, I watched The Flash.
Yes, I want to see that actually.
Yeah, I didn't think it was that bad. Everyone's shitting on it. It's a notorious box office bomb. Ezra Miller is problematic. All this stuff, but to see Michael Keaton in the Batsuit again was nice. I thought it was a fun movie. 2 hours goes by pretty quick, goes down easy. I don't know. I liked it. I think Ezra Miller is quite talented too. Great actor.
I know that people have a problem with him. I don't specifically know what his issues are.
I don't either.
I just know that he's a guy that people have an issue with.
Yeah, exactly. But one of the better superhero movies I've seen in a while. Not great, but worth a watch. What about you, man?
Well, we touched on this actually, but I've been deep into Righteous Gemstones.
Oh man,
yeah,
yes.
That's actually like our Sunday night thing. Is we make dinner and we watch the previous episode again, and then we watch the new one on Sunday nights.
Oh, that's you're all caught up.
Yeah, so it's a weekly event, in our camp here,
Oh man, yeah, we've been fans. We started watching it the first season, and it's kind of like, oh, this might be a one and done kind of show, but they seem to find like the last couple seasons of that have been just as good.
Well, Danny McBride and his crew and the writers and everyone associated with his little outfit there are comic geniuses, if you ask me, man. Yeah.
Oh, speaking of Danny McBride, because David Gordon Green is the director on that show, Righteous Gemstones. Mm-hmm. Before Oppenheimer, we got the new Exorcist trailer.
Yeah. Okay.
I was curious if you'd seen it yet. Yeah.
dude. I reject it, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
reject. I
agree.
reject it like I reject society.
You know, when the trailer started playing, I thought, oh, what is this generic horror shit? And then the Exorcist theme came in, and I couldn't believe it. This is the new Exorcist, and got a big pop from the audience. I got to say, people were very excited.
People are fucking idiots, man. It's like,
Yeah, well, this is an AMC. Of course they are.
yeah, it's like the first and the third, Exorcist 1 and 3, Legion.
Yeah.
Exorcist and Legion are fucking perfect films. They're brilliant. They're like the two of the best horror films ever. And just films. And especially 3. 3 is great because it's like such a brooding meditation on like, consciousness and, death and all that stuff. And it's like
It's great. It's great.
like, yeah, it's like it's all told in dialogue. You don't really see much you don't see it. There's not a lot of special effects really in the third one.
Yeah, and the director's cut is even more dialogue heavy.
Yeah. That's Legion, right? That's the director's cut.
Yeah, it's
Legion.
very good. It's worth seeking out.
Yeah. Rennie and I went to see Exorcist 3 a few months ago, but it wasn't the director's cut though. It was the original, the theatrical cut. And
Okay. Yeah, that one's still good though.
yeah. And then for the first one, you have the fucking gore fest, not gore fest, but the special effects. You get the gross outs. You get like the the horror tropes in the first one. So you really get a full spectrum of weird entertainment. You get the possession, the sort of gross out scenes, and then you get the more introspective, dialogue heavy, meditative, atmospheric third one, and it's like perfect. So no one is going to get that. You know what I mean? Like that's Blatty's like expression. No one else is going to ever capture that feeling. So why even try to remake it?
I agree. And I mean, proof is there's an Exorcist 2 and there's two versions of Exorcist 4 and none of them work.
Yeah.
I'm not sure David Gordon Green is the guy to bring some, maybe 15 years ago, I would say so, but not now. I don't think he's the guy that has like some fresh new idea or something that's going to really, feel like it fits in that world. I mean, I know they brought Ellen Bernstein back and like, I hear Linda Blair's in it, but they're trying to hide it from people. You could bring the everything back. William Friedkin, get him back as director. And I still don't think I don't see it. No, it's not a remake, but they're doing the possession again. And that's what was cool about Exorcist 3. It wasn't really a possession movie.
No, not at all. No, it's like it's an expansion on the mythology that he set up in the first episode of it, the first piece, the first novel. And that's the thing, man. It's like, I don't know. It's like you cannot go back and try to capture these things, And I would rather have seen another, like an interesting director take the mythology and expand on it and, do some world building, maybe have a prequel or maybe have like, further, like kind of, there was a TV show that actually covered some of this that wasn't bad, actually.
Oh, did it? Yeah. Really? Dude, I didn't even know it existed until like a few weeks ago.
Yeah, there's like 2 seasons, and I'm not saying it was good. I'm not saying it was great, but it's definitely worth checking out. It's not. Conceptually, it's interesting, and that's what I would like to see more. If they're going to do anything with that IP, with the Exorcist, IP, they should do something like that.
Yeah, I know 4 was a prequel. Both versions of it, I think. I gotta watch those again.
Yeah, but definitely try to look up the series. And the first season's good. Second season kind of fell off. I mean, it's not good, but it's I think worthwhile to check out, honestly.
Yeah, and honestly, I am gonna see the new Exorcist movie. If anything, I smell a 3-way episode between you, and Mike talking about it.
Yeah, we're gonna watch it and we're gonna discuss it on this show for sure. We are. I mean, we have to. How are we not gonna watch it?
Yeah, exactly.
So, last night we attempted to do a John Carpenter trilogy of the Apocalypse in the evening, but we only made it through. We had The Thing, Prince of Darkness, and In the Mouth of Madness on deck last night. So
classics.
We went out, we got some burgers at this place, and then we engaged in trying to watch these 3 films, but we only made it to the end of The Prince of Darkness, and then we put In the Mouth of Madness on hold for later today, probably.
Oh, nice. My second date with my current girlfriend, that's what we watched. We watched Prince of Darkness.
That's probably one of my top. Actually, The Thing and Prince of Darkness are probably my 2 favorite Carpenter films.
All 3 of those. Honestly, I got to say, Mouth of Madness might be my favorite.
Sam Neill, you gotta love him.
You really do. Yeah, that's a great movie. I'll never forget going and seeing that in the theater with my friends in high school and just being totally blown away.
Yeah, so that's what I've been checking out lately. Like I said, it's just been like mad busy at work and just getting crushed. But this week, I'm finished with all the busyness, and next couple weeks should be pretty chill, which is good.
Yeah, great, man. Nice.
But before we get further off track here, we're going to shout everyone out. We got the Illuminati of podcasting, the horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse. And starting the week off on Mondays, we got Brandon Legion with Horrorwolf 666, a brother podcast in the horror realm. And we're trying to take it over the horror podcasting stratosphere with the 2 of these shows. Tuesday, the best metal podcast on the internet. Of course, that's Into the Necrosphere with Jackie Smith. Wednesday is Everything Went Black, which I apologize for missing last week. But there's some scheduling issues outside of my control. The one guy that I had lined up had some, issues, some pretty serious like stuff that he had to deal with, so we had to bail on the episode, and we'll reconvene. Thursday, of course, is Necro Thursday. Friday, we have Break the Apocalypse with Mike Scandato's brother, John Draper. Saturday, take the day off. I know it's really hot out, but try to go outside, get some air, get some vitamin D, stay cool. You know what I mean? Stay hydrated.
Yeah.
Sunday, Carl Hikara comes back with Soul Knocks. And that's for anyone who's into darkness, the esoteric, the occult. And occasionally I go on there. Pretty much Carl and I collaborate on the Darkness Weaves collaboration, which we talk about the work of Carl Edward Wagner, a criminally obscure weird fiction, horror, dark fantasy writer. And we're hoping to bring that to everyone's attention. So we have one voicemail from last week. So if you are interested in talking to us, leaving us messages, making recommendations. Actually, this episode has been recommended to us from the voicemails. So we're making attempts of chipping away at this list of recommendations that everyone has. So if you want to call us and leave a voicemail, that is 908-913-0782. That's 908-913-0782. And this past week, we got Mike from PA. Thanks for calling, Mike. I always look forward to hearing from you every week.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, good morning there, my Necro brethren. It's Mike from Telford. I'm on my way to work. It's about 7 o'clock. Really enjoyed the Dagon episode. Couldn't agree more. I was disappointed with that when I first saw it, when it came out. I have a Lionsgate DVD of that. And a little disappointed, but I think I was just expecting too much. My expectations were too high for Stuart Gordon and Paoli making a Lovecraft movie. But I watched it not too long ago. I think we found it on a streaming service, and my girlfriend hadn't seen it and actually liked it a lot more than the first time around. So it's a fun movie. It's not a classic, but, I wish Stu Gordon was still with us and able to do some stuff. He made a bunch of great things. It kind of throws my 80s theory out of whack, don't it? Because I like the Stuart Gordon movies. Last night we watched The Thing. I'm going through my old DVDs because we had an incident in the foyer and some shit fell over. You can't stack cardboard boxes for like 20 years and not expect them to degrade. So I had to go through my old DVDs and shit. And we watched a thing last night called The Norless Tapes. It's a Dan Curtis. It was a pilot for a series that never happened, but it's very, very cool. It's very Kolchak. I mean, it's Dan Curtis, but if you haven't seen that, I don't want to give too much away, but it was real cool. It's very, it's very 70s. It would have been a great fucking show, but Hope you guys are all right. Really enjoyed the episode and taking the old, I almost called her the old lady. I could get in a lot of trouble for that. We're going to the beach this weekend in Delaware. It's her birthday, so I'm gonna fry my Irish ass on the beach. But I hope you guys have a good weekend. Look forward to next Thursday. Fucking show. I look so forward to Necro Thursday, guys. Appreciate it. Later.
All right, so Mike, thanks for the thoughts on Dagon. That's like a debatably good film. Something that we enjoy.
We didn't even know it was a timely episode either, Mike, did we? It's just celebrated like an anniversary.
Yeah, I completely unaware of that. Have you seen the Norless tapes? That's something that I've always wanted to check out.
I have not seen that, no.
It's something that's on my radar, and it's definitely, that's the kind of thing that I would be totally into. And Mike, I hope your beach trip went well and that you had adequate sunscreen on.
Awesome.
So that brings us to this week's episode, The Wailing, which a lot of you out there through the voicemails have expressed interest in us talking about this film. And I'm surprised that we haven't actually covered this, because this seems to be a movie that comes up on a lot of people's radars. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's older than I thought, too. Like, I feel like this came out a few years ago, but it was 2016.
Yeah, May 12th, 2016. It's a South Korean production. Runtime, 156 minutes. It's an epic.
Yes.
I'm sure that we'll have some thoughts about the film, about the length of this movie.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
Yeah. I'm going to destroy all these names. Apologies for anyone out there who is, from Asia, and I apologize for my, ignorance in pronouncing these names. So directed and written by Na Hong Jin. Okay, I'm sure that's sounds horrible the way I did it, but apology. Cast. These are all Korean actors. We have Kwak Do-hwan as Jung-gu. He's the cop, I would say, father, and he's the main character of this. Kim Hwan-hee as Hyo-jin, the daughter. Jang So-yeon as Jung-gu, his wife. That's Jung-gu's wife. Jun Kinemura as the Japanese stranger. Hwang Jung-min as the shaman. And those are pretty much the main characters. There's some peripheral, people involved in this. And there's a lot of twists and turns in this film. And to give you a quick, overview, the main summary of the plot of this movie is it centers around a policeman, and there's a series of mysterious killings in this small town, in this Korean village. And there's seems to be a connection between everything, and there's a mysterious Japanese stranger, and he seems to be at the center of this. And things get personal for Jung-gu when his daughter Hyo-jin becomes possessed, and that's kind of the if you were to reduce the plot, that's kind of what this whole movie's about.
Yeah, I would say that was pretty accurate.
Yeah.
So before we start talking about the movie, I just wanted to talk about the director real quick. He made a couple other films that I've seen, The Chaser and The Yellow Sea. Have you seen either one of those, Mike?
I haven't seen either one of those films, but I did see his more recent film, The Medium, that was on Shudder for a while. Have you seen that one?
Oh, okay. No, I didn't see that. I was completely unaware of that. I'd like to check it out.
Yeah. What are the other two films about? What's the story with them?
They're not horror movies. Tonally, they might share some similarities with The Wailing, but The Chaser is basically about this piece of shit. He's like a pimp. And The Yellow Sea was more of a somber drama. I haven't seen either one in quite a while. I think The Chaser was on Netflix for a long time back in the day. That's where I saw it. Both are worth your time. If you're a fan of this film, I highly recommend you go back and watch The Yellow Sea and The Chaser, especially The Chaser.
Yeah, the medium is pretty much in line with the Wailing as far as like subject matter. I think the Wailing and the medium, I would classify them as like Asian folk horror, really.
I'm
And
glad you, yeah.
yeah, for sure. That it's like there's a tradition of that style of storytelling in Asia as well as like you think of folk horror, you think of like the Wicker Man, and you think of like Cornwall, UK kind of stuff, but these kind of mythology, folklore based narratives are all over the world, and both this film and the medium kind of touch on that, in my opinion.
Yeah, we're big fans of folk horror on this podcast, and that's true. People think of Asian horror as its own thing, completely. But like this and like one of our listeners brought up before, Onibaba, which has a lot of similarities to The Witch, and so does this in a way.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll get to some of the really cool parts of this film too. But yeah, so I have only seen one other film by this director, and I really enjoyed it. And definitely check it out if you haven't seen it.
For sure.
So what is there to say about this movie?
Well, I mean, we talked about it last week when this was recommended, that I wasn't a huge fan of this movie and you were.
Right.
So it's interesting to go back and watch it again and see. My first time around, I had some problems with it. I thought it was too long. I found myself getting lost throughout the movie, and at the very end, was just kind of confused as to what happened. But this viewing, I don't know, maybe I was paying closer attention. I don't know, but I found a lot to really admire about this movie. And one of the things I really like is the tone of the movie.
Yeah.
From where it starts to where it ends, very different.
Yeah, because we open up and we see a very, healthy family setting. With the father, the mother, and the daughter, and there's the mother-in-law that lives there too. Very traditional,
right?
Korean,
yeah,
South Korean family setting. There's almost there's a lot of like this the kind of humor elements of it too. They play off that a little bit, and then you see the juxtaposition of the family element, and then the father goes to this crime scene. And it's a brutal crime scene, and you get to see like the family, and then there's like murder basically, and it's just like kind of jarring in some ways. You know what I mean?
It is, yeah. But they kind of keep up the sort of comedic tone. Like you get, they're really introducing the main character, and he's seems like a likable guy, but doesn't really get a lot of respect. Like his family makes fun of him. The guys at the police station at the crime scene, they're like, "Oh, you're a fuck up," kind of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
And that's
so it's kind of funny.
Yeah, and it runs contrary to like like in an American film, like that guy would be this kind of badass, like somber, sullen loner or whatever. You know what I'm trying to say?
Like, dude, I wrote the same thing down. I was like, this is such a flip of the. This was an American movie, like that cliche of the hard-boiled cop.
Yes.
Probably like an alcoholic. Yeah. He's really driven. Yeah. Yeah. This guy is none of those things. He's just sort of a guy doing a job. Like it's almost really not important to the plot that he's a cop.
In some ways, yes, definitely. Yeah, I can see. Actually, you're right. Because it is more about the possession of his daughter. I can see what you're saying. Yeah. But yeah, he's like an unremarkable guy. Like physically, he's just kind of like this, like regular dude. Nothing remarkable about him. And yet he's thrust into this supernatural element. And that's kind of what I found really interesting about the movie as well.
Yeah, me too. It's a slow burn for sure. And I like the introduction. There's like sort of like local folklore about the Japanese stranger. And I like the scene in the police station between the main character and another cop where there's sort of, the guy's telling them sort of like rumors about this guy.
Also, this film really takes its time, like unfolding. I mean, I think it was like maybe 45 minutes into the film before anything really sort of kicks off as far as the main plot lines of the story, you know?
Yeah, at first viewing, I found it a little unnecessary. I still find it a little bit long, but part of its effectiveness is its length, and part of the emotional punch is how well you get to know this guy and his family. Like, it's important to the story.
In some ways, and this is going to sound, but hear me out when I say this. It's almost like in a Serbian film where the first 45 minutes of that film too are just you getting to know this guy and his family and get to like him, and you know, and then all hell breaks loose after that, you know. And this isn't as extreme obviously as that film, but yeah, you spend a lot of time developing the bonds between the characters and a little bit of the backstory. You're introduced to the Japanese stranger who's nameless, you know, is this guy that lives out in the woods, and you know, the town has this everyone, there's rumors about who he is actually. No one, you know, everyone's making up stories basically about what he's doing here, who he is. He's a rapist, he's this, he's that, you know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and it's, you know, I wanted to point out, like, also in an American movie, like, this would be like a cat and mouse kind of movie between like the killer and the cop, and this is totally not that.
No, it's not that at all, you know. And the other element of this that initially might seem unrelated is there's this like bizarre. It appears to be an infection that's breaking out in the town, and
Right.
The first time I watched this movie, I was like, okay, is this going to be some kind of zombie thing, or, you know, some like kind of infected type of movie, you know? So there's that element gets kind of injected into this because there are those like kind of trope style elements, and then there's this mysterious stranger, and that's what's cool about the movie is that on first viewing you're going to be like, well, what actually is going on here? We got these elements, and it takes a long time to play out all these pieces until they're actually kind of reconciled towards the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Second viewing, a lot of this, you know what? Second viewing, I was thinking this kind of reminded me of Kill List a little bit, as like, it doesn't exactly spell it out for you at the end, but all of the pieces there are there to come to the conclusion. The first time I found the ending very confusing. This time I didn't, and it made me appreciate it so much more. As a film is like, oh, like now I kind of get what this movie is doing.
Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned Kill List because they are kind of like I could see them being related in the sense that both of them are folk horror, you know, quote unquote films. Very different tones though, and definitely culturally very different too. You know.
Yeah, I just really appreciate that the movie doesn't completely spell it out for you, because it was kind of like, I mean, did you find this confusing at all first time through?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I still find it a little confusing, to be honest, and you know, some of it might be the subtitles, you know, a little bit. Some of it might be, you know, the fact that it might be a little bit long, and you know, but both. I've watched it twice. I only saw it one time prior to this, and both times I really liked it. The second time around, I liked it more because I was aware of what all the plot elements were, you know.
Right.
So what happens with these? It's perceived as being an infection, and someone gets infected, and they kill their families and all their loved ones around them. All right, so that's the main conflict, the main sort of culture, community conflict that's going on. All right.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that connects all these people is their interaction with the Japanese stranger. Okay, so this guy has appeared in everyone's lives at some point, and that is perceived as the cause of all this like change. This I'm going to call it a possession. Okay, of the people that get infected, and they develop this rash. You know, not unlike the rash that I just dealt with. And you know, and then they start having all these violent acts. Also,
and
there's a
I'm
lot
sorry.
of dream stuff that goes on in this film too.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, and again, the movie takes its time to introduce the daughter and how sweet and funny she is. So it makes the scenes of her slowly becoming possessed so much more effective.
And then, of course, in an American film, and this, we were talking about The Exorcist earlier on, and they first, this is actually kind of cool that you brought that up earlier. In a movie like The Exorcist, they first, when these things arise, they look to science right away, medical stuff, brain, CAT
Yeah,
scans, like all this stuff, spinal taps, whatever. Here, they're like, oh, we have to get a shaman.
right.
It's like this is obviously some kind of possession situation. We have to get a shaman to like sort this out.
Yeah, and it ends up being a pretty big plot point in the movie.
Yeah, there's a couple of different shamans actually. There's a mysterious woman in white. There's all these like strands that get introduced into the film. So the daughter gets possessed slowly. And it's uncovered that she had some contact with the Japanese stranger. All right, and there's also scenes of the Japanese stranger out in the woods, like, eating raw flesh and, things like that. You know what I mean? Like, there's a very big mystery about who this person is.
Right. But it's all from stories and dreams, though. We don't actually know that he is what they think he is.
Right. It's like the unreliable narrator. It's like in an
Yeah.
Edgar Allan Poe like story where someone's telling you a narration and you're like, you have to read between the lines to determine what's actually happening, what's real, what's imagined, what's the person's point of view conjuring up, like that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And like you said, 45 minutes, like the movie really starts to, it slowly gets more and more intense. And that sort of slapsticky comedy that was so present in the beginning slowly starts to drain out of the movie, and by the end you realize you're actually watching something pretty dark. Like it's not what from where it ends from where it starts. I think it's two totally different things and very unexpected, and one of the strengths of the movie.
Yeah, and we mentioned shamans, right? So there's a couple of different shamans involved in this. Like the first guy that comes over is he's basically he's a priest. He's like a deacon, not a priest. He's a deacon. And he turned out to be kind of a chucklehead, wasn't able to do the job. And then they find another shaman who's like more the real deal, you know what I mean? And
Right, yeah.
But he's expensive and he needs money and this kind of thing,
Yeah, he's a little like flashy, yeah.
Yeah, but he's the guy who purportedly can do the job. Now, there's all sorts of really cool footage, really cool scenes of the ritual and, the various things they do to try to deal with the possession of the daughter.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the best scenes, if not the best scene in the movie, was the dual ritual scenes. Because while the shaman is performing the ritual, the Japanese man is also performing his own ritual. And we're trying to tread lightly here because we don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it. But those scenes are very misleading, and if you're not paying close attention, it can add to the confusion. Because like I said, the first time through I saw, I was like, "Oh wait, what about this? What about this? It doesn't make any sense." But it became clearer to me in a second viewing.
Yeah, totally. But
what's happening there? Yeah,
yeah, and it's just that was very effective, man. Like, you imagine what it would have been like at that shoot, like what that scene would have been like to shoot that.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, we had it blaring in our living room. It's super intense. Yeah, it's really loud and it cuts between two different settings. It's such a good scene.
But you can see how it's affecting the daughter, and she's having it looks like it's really So Jong-gu steps in and he's like, stop the ritual. We can't go on anymore. They're afraid that it's going to kill his daughter and that sort of thing. So the ritual actually isn't completed.
Right.
Or it's at a stalemate.
Yeah.
Let's say it's at a stalemate, I would say. Because during that period of time, they're not, I'm assuming that they're not aware of the Japanese stranger doing his own counter ritual.
Right. Yeah. I assume that as well. Well, at least the family doesn't know.
Yeah. So they're just like perceiving this thing as being like, that's incredibly, it's harming our daughter, and we want to, stop this before she's, killed or whatever.
Right. And it made like the scene that follows it made it like, again, a second time through. There's a scene in this where like it's almost sort of looks like something out of a zombie movie. You know what I'm talking about, that scene right after.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing. There's all these other elements. And like the first time I saw this film, not knowing anything about it or where it's going, I was like, what the fuck is going on, man? Like you got like reanimated corpses, people attacking each other, and it's not obvious. Like this is definitely something you need to see a couple times to get the full spectrum of the narrative.
Yeah, absolutely. I even think I'd benefit from the third viewing because there's still a lot of things I'm not sure of, but like that whole scene with like, the guy, there's like a guy who's seemingly like an animated corpse, and he's attacking the group because they go to see the Japanese man. They think our lead character basically has like a posse with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that scene, once I really took in the ending and really thought about everything we'd seen, that scene did make more sense to me.
So where do we all want to go after this? Because it's like this last bit really is the whole delivery point. I don't want to ruin the film for anyone who hasn't seen it just yet.
Yeah, well, I'll say it's hard to really say without spoiling it, but the movie kind of tells you what it is, and then you really start to question what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of red herrings throughout the movie. Maybe the Japanese guy isn't what they think he is. Maybe this mysterious girl is not what we think it is. There's a lot of ambiguity until there isn't.
This is where we get the unreliable narrator element of the film, and that's what I really appreciated about it, is that it's not a linear plot. It doesn't explain everything to you, but it also isn't one of those cop-out films either where it's like, oh yeah, we want you to figure it out. Meanwhile, there's no any kind of they just got lazy with it. They really did, in a very the literary sense, provide unreliable narration, because a lot of it is told through dreams. A lot of it is like misunderstandings of things that are going on and personal biases about things. And it creates there's like a misleading element to that. And then it gets reconciled at the end. And then you're still left with a slight bit of ambiguity where you can maybe discuss like different ideas about what happened.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. We talked about it for a bit after we watched it last night. There's a lot of that. But, again, like you said, it definitely doesn't cop out. Like, I think who everyone is and where they stand at the end,
Yeah.
And you don't see it coming. It's not even really like a twist either. It's hard to explain, I guess. But, I mean, it's a movie that is straightforward and full of surprises at the same time.
Oh yeah, well put. Very well put.
Yeah, thank you. And maybe they can use that for the Blu-ray cover when they reissue it.
Jeff Kashid, Necromaniacs.
But you know what? Also, I'm really glad this was recommended, and because I don't think I would have thought to watch this again. It's definitely for a more patient sort of person. Like if you're looking for like a quick 90-minute thrill ride, this is not for you.
Yeah, you need to set aside some time. You have to be comfortable with reading subtitles, and you have to pay attention during this movie for sure. And but I highly recommend it, man. I think it's probably in my, I would say, a top 20 Southeast Asian horror films for me.
Yeah, when like we're talking about most important movies of the last 23 years, I really think this is one to discuss. I mean, it is such a well-made movie.
Yeah,
And
that's the other thing, man. Like you're watching, like it's a film. You know what I'm trying to say? It's like very meticulously crafted, and the production is excellent, and the whole thing is well acted, everything.
You know what, too, I wanted to point out? It's not shot like a horror movie. Like,
expand on that. Yeah, I want to hear what you have to say about that.
There's no creepy score, really.
Right.
There's no jump cuts. There's nothing to imply that you're watching a horror movie. It just basically is the plot, and that is the horror. It's what's happening on screen. There's no other tricks or up its sleeves to make it scary or anything like that. It feels like I don't know. I think that's a good way to go. Like sometimes those elements can like kind of ruin a horror movie. You know what I mean? Like the material isn't strong enough, so you need to disguise it with creepy score or whatever. And it just has none of that. It's just sort of like feels like you're watching a suburban or a drama until you're not.
Actually, that's another similarity between Kill List too, if you think about it, because Kill List isn't staged like a horror film either. That's like one of those like hard ass like British crime movies or something,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even up until like the very end, like there's nothing like that in this movie at all. Like I like that the stuff, they think there might be a ghost in the village, there might be a demon in the village, but there's no fake outs. There's none of that stuff.
Yeah, and there's still like the idea that it might actually, well, that's not true. Well, to a certain extent, that it actually could be an actual just infection making people insane.
Yeah, they kind of don't really like at one point I kind of forgot about the infection in this movie.
The other thing they play up on too, which I found interesting, is like the idea of ritual, and that plays a big part of this thing, and belief, and I'm sure you've read about like all sorts of like things that happen in exorcisms and
Sure.
stories over the years of people, their belief systems manifesting certain things in their bodies, and that's during the ritual scene in this film. I was kind of thinking about that. I was like, wow, like maybe like I know we're watching a supernatural horror film, but also part of this might be about that belief system. If you devoutly have belief in certain things and these rituals happen, it connects with some part of you that creates this. If you believe something, like if you believe that you're possessed, or if your belief system makes you believe that you're possessed, and then this ritual happens, and then the music and the chanting and all that kind of stuff, how that affects you on like a subconscious level,
Right. Yeah.
It made me think about a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, there is a lot to mull over and think about after you've seen this. Is a great movie to see with someone who's also, paying attention. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot I like to talk about that we highly recommend you see this and come to your own conclusions. And I'd be curious if anyone knows what other people think about the ending of this film and what happened. But what do you grade this? What would you give this?
I'm a fan, and I've liked it, and I give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Okay, I would have started if at like a 2.5, 3 at my first viewing, but now it's up somewhere in 4.5 range. It's It's really good, man, and it's crazy sometimes what a second viewing years later can just completely change a film for you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was that's happened to me a bunch of times over the years with movies that I didn't necessarily like originally, and now I'm like a big fan of that, you know. And but I mean, this one I did like, you know.
Has it ever gone the other way where you watch something, you watch it again, you're like, oh, this kind of sucks?
Yeah, there's been movies I've seen that don't hold up for sure, you know. That's definitely happened in my life, for, you know, no doubt. You know, I've had all sorts of like films I used to love, and then I watch it again, and it's like, this movie's kind of a piece of shit, actually.
Yeah, it happened to me a lot when I was like a big stoner and I'd watch something and be like, this movie's great, and then watch it years later when I'm not a stoner anymore, and I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? This sucks.
Yeah, nothing. No, I'm trying to think. What nothing specifically comes to mind, but yeah, I've for sure had experiences like that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. But yeah, I mean, I am, yeah, complete. I went from not recommending this movie to liking it a lot.
Yeah. I got one more thing I
And
wanted to ask you about, actually.
sure.
Completely unrelated.
Okay.
You and I are we're fans of 6 Feet Under, right? The TV show from HBO, like back in the late 90s into the.
Oh, yeah.
I think it started in the late 90s, right?
I think it was early 2000s. I'm not
Okay.
sure.
Now, after watching the entire series, okay, is there an argument to be made that 6 Feet Under is a Shirley Jackson-esque ghost story?
Huh. You know what? That's interesting.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not something. I mean, I don't have a strong opinion about that, but I told you recently I've been, you know, watching it again, and you know, knowing how everything turned out, you know, with the death of Nate, and
Yeah.
and there's so much foreshadowing, even from like all the way back to like the first season, and
Yeah.
the appearance of the father as a ghost, you know. And,
Yeah. You know, I
he's in every episode.
yes. I only did that show once through back in 2006. The last time I saw it, I just moved back to LA, and Aaron Harris had it on DVD. He's like, "Watch this, just watch it." He's like, "It's amazing."
Yeah.
And we blew through it pretty quick. And yeah, I mean, it's so heavy, and I didn't expect to be so emotionally affected by the end of it. It was like, man, this is such a journey on watching this show. I'm curious to go do a rewatch. It's been quite a while. 2006 was a while ago now.
Yeah, the movie is like the show is very interesting. It's got like a very heavy tone to it, and there's a lot of humor. And then there are these elements to it, like I was saying, like with the ghost. And part of me is like, yeah, I realize there's definitely an argument to be made that this is like all in Nate's head. But, you know, it touches on the stuff I was talking about earlier about belief and, you know, what's real and what's not real. And like you perceive things to be a certain way, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny. I was going to do a rewatch of The Shield. Now I'm like, maybe 6 Feet Under is up next for a rewatch.
Oh yeah, for sure. And there's like so many elements to it, man. And it's so dated in some ways, but also timeless.
That's what I was going to ask you about. Like, is it a little like dated, or like it probably looks bad by today's standards?
No, I think it still plays really well. Like it's not like watching a movie from the 80s or something like that, or a show from the 80s.
Right.
It still plays really great, but it's very nostalgic. You know what I mean? Because like being of a similar age of the characters in the they're in the show, and having gone through like certain life things that were happening concurrently to me while I was watching that. You know what I mean? And and it was just kind of like you relate to it in a certain way. And there are definitely references like with phones and stuff. Like there's a scene where David is inputting phone names and contacts into his new cell phone, like by hand.
Yeah.
And just the lack of like social media, like all that kind of stuff. Like the good old days before social media was a thing.
Yeah, before the world was fucking ruined. Yeah. I'm very, very curious to watch that again. And, by next episode, I'll let you know if I'm watching it.
Yeah, let me. I'm interested to hear about your idea about like this whole like ghost story thing. Because I remember really this last time watching it, be like, man, this is like a fucking ghost story in some ways.
Yeah, that house. I remember I drove by that house in L.A. It's in like this weird nebulous area of L.A. that I'd never been to before, and I was in that area. I was like, oh, let me check out that house.
And even the role of the house, it's like this gothic sort of trope that's part of. It's a fucking mortuary,
Yeah, it's a very creepy house.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Cool.
That's all I got to say about it.
That's it. Yeah. The Wailing. See it with someone and discuss, because there's a lot to talk about with that one. And if you want to discuss it with us, go ahead. I'll talk to anyone.
You cannot have your phone with you, and you have to pay attention.
No,
that's the one disclaimer.
Yeah, you have to pay very close attention, or you will be lost. You'll probably be lost anyway. I mean, like I said, I'm still not 100% sure if everything I think happened.
Right, for sure. All right, guys. We'll talk to you next week. Take care.
All right, take care.